expects to be able to drain floodwaters out of at least main roads which are swamped within a fortnight after its demand for additional water pumps from the Flood Relief Operations Command were met yesterday. Now, Bangkok Governor Momratchawong Sukhumpan also expects to be able to drain water from the small soys out within a month.
Now, the FROC had promptly sent 24 pumps to the BMA following the governor's demand on Saturday, which, according to Momratchawong Sukhumpan, will double the BMA's capacity to empty the floodwaters from eastern Bangkok. Now, the Royal Irrigation Department, or the RID, also responded to Momratchawong Sukhumpan's call to turn on more pumps. The department yesterday began switching on 16 out of 20 pumps at its Klong San Sap water pump station in Nong Jok district.
Now, in a statement posted on its Facebook page, the Royal Irrigation Department said it is starting to use these 16 pumps after closing the Nong Jok sluice gate, which is located next to neighboring Chacheng Sao province, to prevent water from flowing from the province into Nong Jok district. Now, 4 other pumps are being kept on as spares to be used in rotation in case the other pumps, when the other pumps start operating on 24-hour operations. Now, the department said it didn't use these 16 pumps from the beginning because it had promised residents who were protesting against its drainage into Chacheng Sao province that it would only use 9 pumps pending further negotiations with the villagers.
What is still worrying is the continuing of the water levels that continues to rise, especially in several areas in eastern Bangkok.
That's right, it's still advancing.
Right. The FROC plan to close 3 water gates at Klong 8, 9, and 10 to reduce the volume of flood water flowing from Pathum Thani province to Bangkok's eastern areas. The FROC managed to shut down only Klong 8 and 10 water gates due to protests by the Lamluka residents in Pathum Thani. However, the protesters agreed to have the Klong 9 sluice gate closed yesterday after the RID promised to install 27 water pumps to drain water out from the Lamluka area.
Right. Meanwhile, the floodwaters continue to advance, although slowly, towards the inner city. Now, it's moved closer to the inner city, and its experts project that the Klong San Sap Canal could overflow soon. The city issued evacuation orders for entire areas of Pasicharan, Nong Kham, and Jatuchak districts, as well as 4 sub-districts in Nong Jok and 1 in Minburi district.
Now, the floodwaters yesterday reached the Pahonyo Tin in front of the Big C department store in Sapan Kwai area, as well as the Klong Bang Su Canal. At several areas, water level was up to 1 meters. On Wipawadi Rangsit Road, the floodwaters reached the headquarters of Thai Airways yesterday. Now, roads up to Sutisan intersection have been closed, and motorists can only use the highway.
Right, this closure of Sutisan only occurred this morning at about 6 a.m. Meanwhile, on Ratchada Pisek Road, there have been reports of water flowing and coming up from the manholes in front of Buntawan complex, while water runoff has reached as far as Jalpaya Park Hotel. In western Bangkok, floodwaters on Petkasem Road was up to 1 meter deep and had reached Bangpai Hospital. Floodwaters from Nong Kham district reached Bangbon district, where the local roads are about 30 centimeters underwater and is impassable to small vehicles.
Meanwhile, in eastern Bangkok, flooding started at the 3-way Bangchan intersection inside the Bangchan Industrial Estate yesterday. Floodwaters from Ram Intra Road reached Tesco Lotus store on Natwamin Road and is about to enter the Bangkapi district.
Right. Now, as all these water continue to creep in advance, because different areas are high and low depending on the area, the city and the Flood Relief Operations Command, they will meet today to discuss the mobilization of resources to drain floodwaters from the capital. Now, Information and Communications and Technology Minister Anudit Nakontap said the government was ready to give full support to the city to fulfill its mission. The government is pinning their hopes for flood relief in Bangkok on these so-called big bags. These are big sandbags, as it plans to lay more of them to reduce the flood inflows from the northern outskirts into the heart of the capital.
Now let's take a look at the progress of the big bags. Group Captain Anudit yesterday said the first 6 kilometers of the 18-kilometer big sandbag barrier that stretches from Klong Prem Prashakon Canal southward and cuts across the Wipawadi Rangsit Road through the northern boundary of Don Mueang Airport was nearly completed. The barrier would then run along the Klong Hokwa and Klong Prat Surain canals and reach the Ram Intra Lamluka section of the Kanchanabhisek Road, which is on Bangkok's Eastern Ring Road. Now, if the 18-kilometer line is finished, it should reduce the inflows by over 60%, and then the BMA can then effectively pump the water out of the capital.
Right, just to add on, Captain Anudit said that the government hopes that when the high tides are relatively low from today until Wednesday, the Royal Irrigation Department can open sluice gates to drain about 30 million cubic meters of flood water per day out to the sea. Now, the command will lay 2 more big bag barriers. Now, this includes a 130-meter barrier in Bangkok's Sai Mai district and a 3-kilometer barrier from Rama 6 Bridge in Ban Bue district to Klong Bangkok Noi Canal in Nonthaburi province to limit the flow into the eastern side of Bangkok and on Rama 2 Road.
Now, the government is also planning to revive a flooded section of the highway between Bang Bua Thong and Suphanburi in a bid to maintain the country's logistic access to the south, as Rama 2 Road is expected to be flooded in the next 2 days. Now, the FROC spokesperson Thong Thong Chandrangsu said the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, or BMA, the Armed Forces, and the FROC would reclaim highway, which is currently under 1.2 meters of water in many places.
Just need to explain that Petkasem Road is flooded, and just beneath that is Rama 2. If Rama 2 gets flooded, then Bangkok is basically cut from the south. Now, the command said that it will place workers will place concrete pipes and barrels stuffed with sandbags along the highway and pump water out of it. Now, the restoration of the road surface on the highway was pending the transportation of required materials through flooded routes. Now, if this highway, which is Highway 340, can be restored, the command says that motorists will be able to drive from Bang Bua Thong through Bang Yai, Suphanburi, and Nakhon Pathom province to reach the south.
Now, in other matters, Kun Pichai last night, Thai PBS played a tape of His Majesty the King giving advice to drainage officials in September 1995. Now, it was ironic to hear what His Majesty the King was saying on the tape, because if we followed his advice, then the floods could be avoided today.
Certainly it sounded that way. Now, His Majesty noted that there are many green areas and lower-lying areas around Bangkok, especially in the east, which are natural water catchment areas. But now, he said, that factories were built. Now, note that His Majesty made these comments in 1995. His Majesty advised that the flood drains should be built around these industrial areas and wondered whether this was being built. His Majesty also said that during the reigns of King Rama V and VI, areas along the rivers were reserved as government areas or catchment areas, but there had been encroachment and illegal housing which hampered the flow of water. His Majesty advised back then that action was needed and the government needs to reclaim these areas and, if necessary, pay compensation to the residents. Also, it's interesting to note that the floodway, which Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra had mentioned, His Majesty had mentioned this Kundon City back in 1995. And it's also interesting to note that the officials who were present at this briefing